Rain turned Portland into a watercolor painting where all the colors bled gray. The intersection at Grant and Ninth wasn't the worst corner in the city, but it was close. Two lanes of northbound traffic that never quite obeyed the lights, a crosswalk that drivers treated like a polite suggestion, and on wet days like this, visibility that dropped to nothing the moment a truck splashed through a puddle. Tyler Brooks stood under the awning of a closed pawn shop watching the rhythm of the traffic like it was a language he'd learned to speak. 6 months on the streets taught you things they don't put in driver's ed. Who was distracted? Who was angry? Who was late enough to make bad decisions with other people's lives? He kept his cardboard sign tucked under his hoodie, not because he was ashamed, but because drawing attention was dangerous. Attention meant questions. Questions meant social services. Social services meant the system, and the system had already failed him twice. He was 15 years old, though. If you asked, he'd say 16. 16 sounded more like someone who chose to be here rather than someone the world forgot. His birthday had passed 3 weeks ago. Nobody sang, nobody brought cake. He'd marked it by finding a semi-dry spot under an overpass and letting himself cry for exactly 5 minutes before stuffing it back down where feelings went to die. The rain picked up. Tyler shifted his weight, his sneakers squelching. They'd been white once. Now they were the color of every sidewalk he'd walked, every alley he'd slept in, every place he'd learned to disappear. His hoodie hung off him like he'd borrowed it from someone bigger, which he had sort of if stealing from a donation box counted as borrowing. Underneath his ribs showed through his t-shirt. Not starving, he told himself, just efficient. The body learned to run on less when less was all you had. Across the intersection, an old woman appeared at the curb. She materialized out of the rain like she'd stepped through a curtain between worlds. Beige rain hat perfectly tied, silver hair pinned back with the kind of precision that spoke of morning routines that hadn't changed in 40 years. She gripped a metal walker, the kind with tennis balls on the back legs that squeaked when they rolled. She waited at the edge of the curb, head slightly bowed, watching the signal. Tyler knew her type, not in a bad way. She was the kind of old person who still believed the world had rules, that crosswalks meant safety, that if you waited for the white walking man, cars would stop. She probably made tea every afternoon at 3, had photos of grandchildren on every surface, said please and thank you to people who didn't deserve it. The signal changed. The white walking man lit up. She started to move, walker first, then her feet in small, careful steps. A sedan cut the corner without slowing. The driver didn't even look. The woman recoiled, froze, her walker's front wheels slipping off the curb edge. For a second, she teetered forward, and Tyler saw something that made his chest constrict. The exact moment a person realizes gravity has stopped being theoretical. He should stay put. Staying put was rule number 1. Don't get involved. Don't be seen. Don't become memorable. His feet moved before his brain authorized it. Tyler stepped into the crosswalk, one hand up, like that would stop 2,000 pounds of metal and entitlement. A horn blared. A driver swore. Someone in a luxury SUV screamed something that got lost in the rain. But the truck rolling toward the corner, that was different. The driver wasn't distracted. He was deliberate. The kind of driver who owned the road because nobody had ever told him otherwise. The woman's eyes went wide. Her knees buckled. Tyler grabbed the walker, yanked it back onto the curb with one hand, hooked his other arm under her elbow and pulled. The truck's horn exploded in his ear, a sound that felt like it lived inside his skull. Wind slapped his face. Dirty spray from the tires hit his cheek. The truck's side mirror passed so close he felt the air pressure change. Then it was gone. The intersection returned to its regular chaos like nothing had happened. Like a 15-year-old and a 70-something woman hadn't just almost become statistics. Tyler kept his arm under her elbow until her feet stopped shaking. She was lighter than he expected, fragile in a way that made him think of birds' hollow bones built for a world that was gentler than this one. "You okay?" His voice came out rough. He hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. She looked at him, really looked, and for a second Tyler braced for it. The scan, the recoil, the look that said homeless louder than any word. But her eyes didn't do that. They softened, filled with something Tyler didn't have a name for. Gratitude, maybe, or recognition, like she'd seen something in him that he'd forgotten was there. Yes, I think so." She said, breath thin and unsteady. Thank you. Tyler nodded once. Yeah, no problem. He started to step back. She should cross now. He should go back to his spot. This was done. But her fingers touched his sleeve light, not grabbing just contact. Wait, she said. Please. Tyler froze. Waiting was dangerous. Waiting meant people saw you long enough to form opinions, make calls, decide you were someone's problem to solve. I'm fine, he said automatically. The lie he'd told so many times it had worn smooth as a riverstone. Her gaze dropped to his hands, to the scrapes on his knuckles from squeezing through a fence 2 nights ago, to the purple bruise on his wrist that he'd tried to hide under his sleeve, to the way his hoodie hung on him like he was disappearing inside it. What's your name? Her voice wasn't demanding. It was human. Names were handles people used to hold you, but something about her tone made lying feel harder than usual. Tyler, he said, the first true thing he'd given anyone in weeks. I'm Margaret, she replied, Margaret Harrison. The light changed again. Cars surged forward. The city went back to not caring. Margaret hesitated, then said, I'm headed to the pharmacy, just up the block. Would you walk with me, just to the door? Every instinct Tyler had screamed no. Walking with someone meant being seen together. Being seen together meant association. Association meant risk. But he also saw how she was shaking, how her grip on the walker was too tight, how she kept glancing at the corner where the truck had almost ended her. Just to the door, he heard himself say. They walked together, Tyler maintaining careful distance, close enough to help if she stumbled, far enough that nobody could say he was bothering her. He kept scanning everything. Reflections in store windows, cars that slowed too much, people who watched too long. 2 city workers in bright vests were unloading cones up ahead. One of them glanced at Tyler, eyes narrowing with something like recognition. Tyler kept his head down and kept moving. Inside the pharmacy, warm air hit his face like a wall. It made him painfully aware of how cold he'd been. The fluorescent lights felt too bright after living in the gray. A small cafe counter buzzed with activity. The smell of coffee made Tyler's stomach clench so hard it hurt. Margaret ordered a coffee, then without announcing it, a breakfast sandwich. When the cashier slid it across the counter, Margaret didn't push it into Tyler's hands like charity on parade. She placed it between them and stirred her coffee, giving him the space to choose. Tyler stared at the wrapped sandwich. His fingers twitched. After a long moment, he took it and shoved it into his hoodie pocket, ready to run if this turned into something else. A security guard near the entrance shifted, eyes landing on Tyler, with the particular attention security guards gave to kids who looked like they didn't belong. His hand drifted toward the radio on his shoulder. Tyler felt his muscles tense, ready to bolt. You're kind, Margaret said loudly to the cashier, but loud enough that the guard heard. Then she turned to Tyler and said just as clearly, my grandson walks too fast. I'm always trying to keep up. Tyler's head snapped toward her. The lie was so smooth, so deliberate, so clearly designed to shift the story from homeless kid suspicious to family helping grandma. The guard's posture relaxed. Tyler swallowed hard. I'm not, he started. I know, Margaret said quietly, not looking at him. Drink your coffee. Tyler hadn't even realized she'd ordered him one too. It appeared on the counter lid already, on warm in his hands when he finally picked it up. Heat seeped into his fingers, made his eyes burn with something that wasn't quite crying, but was too close for comfort. When was the last time someone had just given him something warm, not for a favor, not for a photo op, just because? They stood there in silence for a moment. Margaret sipping her coffee, not staring, not interrogating, just existing beside him like he belonged in the same space. Tyler couldn't handle it for long. Warmth made you careless, made you forget that kindness usually came with invoices. He turned toward the door. Margaret reached into her purse. Tyler tensed, hoping it wasn't money. She pulled out a small white card with neat black letters and held it out between 2 fingers. Duke Harrison, it said, with a phone number beneath. If you ever need help, Margaret said softly, real help, call this. Tyler stared at the card like it had teeth. Who's that? My son, she said. He runs a shop. He's good at fixing problems. Problems like his didn't get fixed. They got moved around until nobody cared anymore. I don't have a phone, Tyler said. The automatic defense. Keep it anyway, Margaret replied. Memorize it or show it to someone you trust. Trust. The word felt like a foreign language. Tyler didn't take the card. Margaret didn't pull it back. She just held it there patient until Tyler finally pinched it between two fingers and slid it into his pocket next to the sandwich, like hiding it from the world could make it safer. Promise me one thing, Tyler. Margaret's voice dropped lower. He frowned. What? If you ever feel like you're not safe, she said, eyes steady on his, you use that number. You don't wait. Tyler nodded once because nodding was easier than talking. Outside, the rain had thinned into mist. He stepped out fast, head down, moving with the practiced invisibility of someone who'd learned to be background noise. The same city worker in the bright vest looked up from the cones and tracked Tyler with his eyes. Tyler felt that look follow him down the block like a hand on his shoulder. 3 blocks away, Tyler finally stopped in an alley behind a closed restaurant. He pulled out the sandwich and ate it standing up back against the wet brick eyes on the alley mouth. Every bite tasted like guilt and grace mixed together. He shouldn't have taken it. He shouldn't have talked to her. He shouldn't have given his real name. But God, the sandwich was good, and the coffee was still warm in his pocket where he'd carefully wrapped it in the napkins Margaret had pressed into his hand. He'd make it last, sip it slowly throughout the day. Warmth measured in tiny doses because warmth didn't come often, and you had to make it count. He pulled out the card, Duke Harrison, the number beneath it. Tyler had a good memory for numbers. Had to when you couldn't write things down, couldn't save contacts, couldn't risk paper trails. He repeated the number 3 times in his head, committing it to the same mental file where he kept the addresses of safe doorways, the schedules of soup kitchens, the faces of cops who'd hassle you versus the ones who'd leave you alone. Then he tucked the card back into his pocket and left the alley, disappearing into the Portland afternoon like smoke. Margaret Harrison's hands were still trembling when she got home. Not visibly. She'd had too many years of practice keeping her composure. But in the small betrayals, the way her keys clinked too loud against the bowl, the way her breath kept catching like the truck's horn was still echoing in her ears. She stood in her hallway for a full 10 seconds without moving. Her house smelled like lemon polish in old books. Warm, safe, civilized. Everything the street wasn't. It should have calmed her. It didn't. Because somewhere out there, a boy was going back to sleeping in alleys, and she couldn't stop seeing the way he'd flinched when the security guard moved. The way he'd shoved the sandwich into his pocket like someone might take it back. The bruises on his wrists that told stories he'd never speak out loud. She walked to the kitchen and put the kettle on. Water tea steps you could control when everything else felt like chaos. Her gaze drifted to the window to the street beyond her careful hedges. For a moment, she saw it again. Tyler stepping into traffic like he didn't have anything to lose. Like saving her was worth more than his own safety. The garage door rumbled open. Margaret's shoulders relaxed slightly. Duke was home early. A few seconds later, the back door swung open with the weight of a man who'd never learned to enter quietly. "Mom!" His voice carried through the house. "Kitchen," she called back. Duke Harrison filled the doorway like he was built for it. 6'2", broad shoulders, the kind of presence that made rooms feel smaller. Rain darkened his leather jacket. His boots left wet prints on her mat. He looked like trouble, even when he was trying not to. Weathered face, dark hair starting to gray at the temples, eyes that scanned everything twice and trusted nothing. Those eyes landed on her now, reading her face the way he'd learned to read threats. "Why are you pale?" Not a question, an accusation wrapped in concern. "I'm fine," Margaret said, knowing it wouldn't work. Duke didn't accept fine from anyone. "You were supposed to call after the pharmacy." "I didn't go to the doctor." His jaw tightened. "Then where were you?" Margaret hesitated. She could lie. Should lie, probably. But she'd raised Duke on truth even when truth was uncomfortable. So she told him. Grant and Ninth, the rain, the crosswalk, the truck that didn't slow, and the boy who moved like instinct had pulled him forward before thought could stop him. As she talked, Duke's posture changed, not softer, sharper. He leaned against the counter, knuckles, whitening eyes narrowing in a way that made the kitchen feel dangerous. When she finished, Margaret added, "He saved my life." Duke stared at her for a long moment. A kid, some random homeless kid. A boy, Margaret corrected. Tyler, 15 years old, hungry, terrified, and braver than half the drivers in this city. Duke's mouth tightened. Did he ask for money? Don't. Margaret's tone went cool. Don't insult him. Duke blinked. For a second, he looked like he'd forgotten what it was like to be corrected by his mother. I didn't mean. He stopped because he had meant it. He meant the street was dangerous and unpredictable, and people used kindness as currency. Margaret reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a business card. I gave him your number. Duke's eyes snapped to the card, then to her face. You gave a stranger my direct line. He's not a stranger, Margaret said. He's a child who could have walked away. Who didn't? Duke shoved both hands into his pockets, pacing once. You know what that number means to some people. You know who might use it. I know exactly who might use it, Margaret replied. A boy who needs help. Duke stopped pacing, stared out the window like he could see the intersection from here. Like he could see Tyler out there somewhere trying to survive a city that had decided he didn't matter. Margaret watched her son's face, seeing the war happening behind his eyes. The part of him that was tired of saving people, and the part that couldn't stop trying. Where, Duke finally asked. Grant and Ninth. Duke nodded once. Decision made. I'm going back. Duke. He held up a hand. I'm not starting trouble. I'm finding the kid, saying thank you, making sure nobody's messing with him for helping you. Margaret studied him. Promise me something. He looked wary. What? You don't scare him, she said. You don't approach him like you're collecting a debt. Duke's expression hardened, then softened by a fraction. I'm not an animal, Mom. Promise? Duke sighed like a man swallowing pride. I promise. He turned it, already moving toward the door. Duke, Margaret called. He paused. She chose her words carefully. When he grabbed my arm, he was shaking. Not from the rain, from fear. Duke didn't answer. He just nodded once and left, boots thudding out into the wet afternoon. Grant and Ninth looked worse in daylight. The rain had stopped, but the streets were slick. Traffic was relentless. People cut corners like they were late to their own funerals. Duke parked half a block away in a plain truck. No bike today, no patches, no colors, just a man in a dark jacket stepping into a city that pretended it didn't have bleeding edges. He walked the sidewalk with his hands loose, scanning. It didn't take long to find Tyler's corner. The spot was empty now, but Duke saw the evidence. A crushed paper cup, a damp scrap of wrapper, a faint smear on the concrete where someone had been sitting recently. That spot had the shape of avoidance. People walked around it without thinking the way you walk around a ghost. Duke slowed, looking at the ground. Then he heard voices. Not loud yet, but tense. The kind that preceded bad decisions. He followed the sound around the corner of a storefront. Two men in bright city vests stood near a stack of cones. One held a clipboard like it was a badge. The other had his arms crossed, posture aggressive. A third man, no vest, just dark jeans and a windbreaker, leaned against a wall and with studied casualness. And Tyler stood at the mouth of an alley, shoulders hunched, hands in his pockets, trying to become invisible again. You can't camp here, clipboard guy said. We've told you, this area is scheduled for cleanup. Tyler's voice was barely audible. I'm not camping. I'm just... Don't smart mouth me. The other vest guy snapped. We can have you trespassed. Duke's hand tightened inside his pocket. Trespassed. That word, like existing while poor, was a crime. A fourth man appeared from the sidewalk. Uniform, police officer, young face blank like a mask. He looked bored in the way people look when they're not bored at all. Problem here. The officer's voice was flat. Clipboard guy brightened immediately. Yeah, officer, this kid won't move. Harassing pedestrians. Tyler's head snapped up. I didn't. Quiet. The officer cut in. You got ID. Tyler didn't answer fast enough. The officer's eyes narrowed. No ID, so you're loitering, obstructing. I'm leaving, Tyler muttered, taking a step back. Clipboard guy stepped in front of him. No, you're not. We're done with this. You want to be helped. We got a van that'll take you somewhere safe. Tyler froze. Duke watched his face and saw it. Terror, not hesitation, Not resistance, pure animal fear, like the word van wasn't transportation. It was a threat. The officer moved closer. Get in the van, you won't have problems. Duke looked past them, saw it. A white vehicle parked half a block away. No markings, tinted windows, a driver sitting behind the wheel staring straight ahead. Something in Duke's gut went cold. He stepped forward. Back off the kid. All four men turned. The officer sized Duke up in half a second. Height, build, posture. Calculating. You involved? The officer asked. Duke kept his hands visible. I'm involved in you not pushing a minor into an unmarked van. Clipboard guy scoffed. It's community outreach. Duke's eyes stayed on Tyler. You want to go with them? Tyler's jaw worked. He didn't look at Duke, didn't trust anyone enough to make eye contact. But Duke saw the answer anyway in the way Tyler's whole body had gone rigid. No, Tyler said, barely audible. Duke nodded. Then step aside. The officer's hand drifted toward his belt. Not his gun, but close enough to make a point. Sir, you need to move along. Tell me your department, Duke said, voice level. Give me your badge number. The officer's eyes flickered. That hesitation told Duke everything. City P down, the officer said. Badge number, Duke repeated. The officer hesitated again. Clipboard guy cut in fast. This is none of your business. Duke's gaze snapped to him. My mother nearly got killed in this crosswalk today. This kid saved her. So yeah, it's my business. The vest guys exchanged a look. The officer's expression shifted like the word mother had introduced complications he didn't want. Duke held the officer's stare. You want to do your job? Do it. But don't pretend this is outreach when you're cornering a kid with no witnesses. Clipboard guy's face reddened. He's a nuisance. Tyler flinched at that word. Duke saw it, saw how it landed like a punch. Step away, Duke said again, calm, absolute. Now. For a moment, the officer looked like he might push it. Then he glanced down the sidewalk, saw pedestrians slowing, saw phones coming out. He made a choice. Kid, the officer said, tone suddenly bored. Move along. Don't make this a thing. Tyler didn't wait for permission twice. He slipped sideways fast, ducking around the corner like smoke. Duke turned slightly as if to follow, then stopped himself. Chasing would confirm every fear Tyler had. Chasing would make Duke part of the problem. Instead, Duke stayed planted, watching the white van half a block away. The driver started the engine. Clipboard guy muttered something under his breath and signaled toward the van. Duke watched it roll away into traffic. Then he turned and walked in the direction Tyler had gone. Not fast, not aggressive, just following. He checked the alley mouth. Empty. Scanned the walls for signs of passage. Found a narrow gap between two buildings barely wide enough for a grown man. A faint path in the mud showed regular use. He followed it to a fenced lot where broken pallets were stacked. Behind them, sheltered from the street, Duke found it. A nest, a flattened piece of cardboard, a torn blanket still damp, a plastic bag tied tight holding a couple of cheap snacks and a half-full water bottle. And there, wedged behind a pallet like someone had tried to hide it, was a greasy paper wrapper from a breakfast sandwich, the one Margaret had bought. Duke's chest constricted. He pictured his mother placing that sandwich on the counter, giving Tyler the choice instead of the command. He crouched, not touching anything at first, just reading the space. The blanket was recent. The bag showed someone was rationing carefully. And behind the pallet, barely visible, a small notebook with water-damaged pages. Duke carefully opened it. Inside, in careful handwriting, Lily, foster home somewhere, find her. Promise. Duke's breathing changed. He closed the notebook and put it back exactly where he found it. Then he stood muscles tight. This wasn't just about saying thank you anymore. This was about a 15-year-old trying to survive long enough to keep a promise to someone he loved. Duke pulled out his phone, stared at his contacts. Thumb hovered over the names that meant muscle, names that meant noise, names that meant consequences. He didn't tap them. Not yet. He pocketed the phone and took one last look at the makeshift bed. Then he turned toward the street again. First step, find Tyler without scaring them. Second step, figure out who the hell was in that van and why they wanted a kid badly enough to use cops as cover. Duke came back to Grant and Ninth the next morning. Different truck, plain hoodie and jeans. No leather, no club insignia, nothing that changed the temperature of a room. He bought 2 coffees from the pharmacy cafe and stood where Margaret had stood yesterday, letting the corner see him until it stopped caring. Tyler appeared in pieces, first as movement at the edge of Duke's peripheral vision, then as a shadow behind a bus stop advertisement, then as a pair of eyes watching from under a hood calculating distance and threat level. Duke didn't look directly at him. He looked past him like Tyler was just another part of the urban landscape. Duke set 1 coffee on a low brick ledge near the crosswalk, not pushing it toward anyone, just leaving it there. Then he took a sip from his own cup and waited. The city moved around him. Cars, pedestrians. A full minute passed, then another. Finally, Tyler stepped out far enough that morning light hit his face. His hair was wet, face hollow. Hands stayed buried in his pockets like that was the only safe place left. "You're the guy from yesterday," Tyler said. Not a question, an accusation. Duke nodded once. "Yeah." Tyler didn't move closer. "You with them?" "No," Duke said. "I'm with my mother." That made Tyler's eyes flicker. The old woman, the walker, the card. Duke kept his voice even. "She made it home. She's okay." Tyler let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Good." Duke picked up the second coffee and held it out. Not extended all the way, not forcing Tyler to close distance he wasn't ready for. Just offered. Tyler didn't take it. Duke shrugged and set it back on the ledge. "You can leave it," Duke said. "You can take it. Doesn't matter." Tyler stared at him like he was waiting for the trap to spring. "Why are you here?" Duke didn't give him a speech. "To say thank you." Tyler's mouth tightened. "People don't come back to say that." "I did," Duke said. Tyler's gaze slid to Duke's hands, checking for weapons, for cuffs, for anything that would turn this into what it felt like it should be. Then his eyes went back to Duke's face. "You got a name?" Tyler asked. "Duke." Tyler's eyebrows lifted slightly. "That's not a name." "It's mine," Duke said. Tyler shifted his weight, ready to disappear at the first wrong word. "Your mom shouldn't give your number to kids like me." Duke nodded like he'd already had this argument. "She does what she wants." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "So what, you gonna take me somewhere?" "No," Duke said. "You don't want to go anywhere. I get it." Tyler blinked, thrown by being understood too quickly. Duke glanced at the street, at the curb, at the cones stacked beside the storefront from yesterday. "Those guys in the vests," Duke said, "they bother you a lot." Tyler's shoulders tightened. "They bother everybody, the ones they can." Duke let that hang for a beat. "Then you hungry?" Tyler scoffed. "Always." Duke tapped the coffee cup with his knuckle. "Drink this. After that, I got an offer." Tyler didn't move, didn't trust it. Duke didn't push. "Work," Duke said. That word got through. Tyler's eyes sharpened. "Like what?" "Cleaning, sweeping, simple stuff." Duke's tone stayed casual. "I run a shop, got more work than hands." Tyler's suspicion came back hard. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Duke said. "You work, you get paid." Tyler shook his head slowly. "Nobody does that." Duke looked him straight in the face. "I do." Tyler's throat worked. He stared at the coffee like it might bite. Then fast, like ripping off a bandage, he stepped forward and grabbed it off the ledge. Took a cautious sip. Warmth hit his system, and for half a second the guard dropped. His eyes softened, his shoulders lowered. Then it snapped back on like armor. "I'm not staying," Tyler warned. Duke turned towards his truck. "Never asked you to." Tyler followed at a distance. Not close, not trusting, just following. They wound through side streets, industrial blocks, where the city sounded different. Less traffic, more metal, more work. The shop sat behind a chain-link fence with a faded sign, Iron River Custom. Duke parked and got out. Didn't immediately move toward Tyler, just pushed the gate open and waved him in like it wasn't a big deal. Tyler stopped outside the fence. From inside, the sound of tools. Laughter, a compressor hissing, men working. Tyler's fingers curled inside his pockets. He knew what this was. Everyone knew. The kind of men you didn't bump into by accident and walk away smiling. You coming or not? Duke asked. Tyler swallowed and stepped through the gate. The moment he crossed the threshold, heads turned. Men in work shirts, tattoos, a couple wearing vests with patches stitched on the back. One had a shaved head and arms like fence posts. Another had a long beard and eyes that felt like searchlights. Duke walked straight to a battered metal cabinet, pulled out thick work gloves, tossed them onto a bench near Tyler. Name? Duke asked. Tyler hesitated. Names were dangerous. Tyler, he said finally. Duke nodded. All right, Tyler. You start with the floor, sweep the bay, wipe down the benches, stay away from the lifts unless someone tells you otherwise. Tyler stared at the gloves. They were used, cracked at the knuckles, but real. Work gear, not charity. He pulled them on. A guy with a shaved head stepped closer, eyeing Tyler like a stray that wandered into the wrong yard. We doing daycare now. Duke's head turned slowly. Voice stayed calm, but the room felt it. We're doing work. You got a problem, take it outside. Shaved head held Duke's gaze for a second, then backed off, grumbling. Tyler kept his eyes down and grabbed a broom. Sweeping wasn't hard, but it was dangerous in a place like this. Move wrong, you're in someone's way. Act too small, you look weak. Act too big, you look like trouble. Tyler found the middle, worked fast, methodical, pushed grime and metal shavings into piles, never stepped into someone's path, never blocked a tool cart. He listened more than anything. Every laugh, every shout, every joke he didn't understand. Filed it away. A mechanic rolled a bike onto a lift and said, "Kid, grab me the 13 mil. Tyler paused, didn't know where anything was. Then he looked, really looked, at the wall of tools, the shapes, the spacing, the way the sockets were organized. He grabbed the right one and handed it over. The mechanic blinked. Huh. Tyler went back to sweeping. An hour passed, maybe two. Nobody offered him kindness. Nobody tried to scare him either. They just watched, measuring him in silence. Then Tyler made his first real mistake. He swept near a bike on a lift. A man with oil-streaked forearms was cursing at it. Brakes feel mushy, the man muttered. Bled them twice. Still off. Another guy leaned in. Maybe master cylinder. Tyler kept sweeping. He tried not to listen. Listening got you involved. But the bike was right there. Rear wheel barely spinning. And something about the way the brake line sat made Tyler's insides twist. He'd spent enough nights behind gas stations watching guys work on cars for cash. Wasn't trained, but he'd seen patterns, seen what wrong looked like. He stepped closer without meaning to. The mechanic glanced down. What? Tyler's mouth went dry. Saying something could get him laughed out. Saying nothing could get someone hurt. He pointed, quick and small. That line, it's twisted. You're pinching it when the suspension moves. It'll choke. That's why it feels weird. Silence. Then the mechanic leaned in and looked. His face changed. He reached in, moved the line slightly. The twist revealed itself clear as daylight. Son of a... The mechanic straightened and looked at Tyler like seeing him for the first time. How'd you catch that? Tyler shrugged. Hard, defensive. I just saw it. The mechanic called across the shop. Duke! Duke appeared beside the lift, eyes going from the line to Tyler. What kid just saved my ass? Duke's gaze stayed on Tyler. Not proud, not sentimental, just assessing. You know bikes, Tyler swallowed. I know when something looks wrong. Duke nodded once. Good enough. The mechanic clapped Tyler on the shoulder. Too casual, too familiar. Tyler flinched without being able to stop it. The mechanic's hand fell away. He didn't comment, just turned back to the bike. Duke didn't miss the flinch. His eyes narrowed a fraction. But he didn't ask, not here, not in front of everyone. He pointed toward the office. Tyler, come here. Tyler's heart kicked. He wiped his hands and followed. Inside the office, noise dulled. Duke shut the door, not locking it, just closing it. You did good, Duke said. Tyler stared at the floor. Compliments were usually the start of something else. Duke reached into a drawer, pulled out a small envelope, slid it across the desk. Tyler didn't touch it. "That's for today," Duke said. "You worked. You earned it." Tyler's throat tightened. "I didn't finish." "You finished enough," Duke said. "Take it." Tyler finally picked it up, felt the weight. Not coins, bills. His fingers tightened like someone might snatch it away. "If you come back tomorrow," Duke said, "there'll be more work. If you don't know hard feelings." Tyler stared at him. "Why Duke didn't pretend it was only business? Because you saved my mother. And because I saw how they looked at you on that corner." Tyler's jaw clenched. "That's normal." "It shouldn't be," Duke said. Tyler swallowed and shoved the envelope into his pocket like it might burn through fabric. Duke nodded toward the door. "You need food. There's a diner 2 blocks over." Tyler's eyes snapped up. "I'm not taking charity." "Then pay for it with what's in your pocket," Duke said. "But you earned it. Remember that." Tyler stood there, not sure what to do with a man who didn't demand gratitude. Duke opened the door and walked him back into the shop without ceremony. Out on the floor, the bearded man watched Tyler with a different expression. Not hostile, curious. "Kid Aiken," the man said, not loud, just enough to get Tyler's attention. He tossed Tyler a clean rag. "For your hands, oil gets everywhere." Tyler caught it automatically. Didn't say thank you. Thank you felt dangerous. He stepped out of the gate into the cold air again. The city noise returning. He walked fast at first, then slower, realizing nobody was chasing him. Duke's truck rolled up beside him at the corner. Window down. "You want a ride?" Duke asked. Tyler didn't even consider it. "No." Duke nodded like he expected that. "Stay out of that alley behind Grant and Ninth. Those vest guys aren't real outreach." Tyler's stomach tightened. "I know." Duke held his gaze. "If you get into trouble, you call my mother's number." "I don't have a phone," Tyler said. "Find one," Duke replied. "Borrow one. Use a store. I don't care how." Tyler stared at him, then looked away, scanning the street. Duke followed his eyes and saw nothing obvious. But Duke had learned that obvious wasn't the only kind of danger. He nodded once. "See you tomorrow, if you want." Then he drove off. Tyler stood alone on the sidewalk, an envelope in his pocket, a rag in his hand, and the strange, uncomfortable thought that for the first time in months, he had a place he could go, if he dared to trust it. Tyler didn't sleep in the alley behind Grant and Ninth anymore. Not after he'd seen those vest guys counting doors near the shop, not after Duke's warning. So he started moving, rotating spots. Library stairwell for an hour, then the bus terminal bathroom, then the back corner of a laundromat that didn't lock until late. He kept his head down as cash buried in his sock and Duke's mother's number memorized like scripture. By the time 3 days had passed, Tyler had earned enough to buy a prepaid phone from a convenience store. Nothing fancy, just enough to make one call if things went sideways. He kept it powered off most of the time, battery life precious as food. But having it felt like having a weapon. Small, hidden, ready. The work at Iron River became routine in a way that terrified him. Routine meant expectations. Expectations meant disappointment was coming. But every morning Duke was there with the same offer sweep. Clean help where needed, get paid. No speeches, no therapy. Just work that had value and a man who kept his word. Tyler learned the crew's names slowly, carefully, like learning which dogs bite. Reaper was the bearded one, looked like a bear, but had steady hands that could thread tiny bolts without looking. Jinx was the tech guy, ran the security cameras, and the shop's online presence, rarely spoke, but saw everything. Stone was the quiet one who somehow knew when Tyler needed space and when he needed someone nearby just existing. On the 4th day, Tyler was wiping down a workbench when he heard Duke on the phone in the office. The door was cracked. Duke's voice was low, but tense. "I don't care what the city says, Rachel. Those weren't real outreach workers. Real workers don't corner kids with cops on standby." A pause. Tyler's hand stopped moving. "Yeah, I want you to file requests, records. Who authorized cleanup at Grant and Ninth? What company runs community response? All of it." Tyler's chest felt strange. Duke was digging. Actually digging. Not just offering charity, actually trying to find out what was hunting kids on those corners. Tyler felt something crack open inside him, something that felt dangerously close to hope. That evening, Margaret came to the shop. She arrived in a neat sedan, walked through the gate with her walker like she owned the place, and every man in the shop straightened up slightly. Not out of fear, out of respect. This was Duke's mother. That meant something here. She found Tyler organizing tools and smiled. "Hello, Tyler." He nodded suddenly, unsure how to act around her outside the pharmacy. "Ma'am." "Margaret," she corrected gently. "May I sit with you for a moment?" Tyler glanced around nervously. Duke was across the shop, but watching, not hovering, just aware. Tyler nodded and Margaret carefully lowered herself onto a bench, setting her walker aside. "Duke tells me you've been working hard," she said. Tyler shrugged. "Just doing what he asks." Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then, "I've been asking questions, Tyler, about those men who were bothering you, about the vans." Tyler's whole body tensed. "You shouldn't. They don't like questions." "I know," Margaret said, "but I'm an old woman with a walker. People underestimate old women. They talk around us like we're furniture." Her eyes met his. "I talk to volunteers at shelters, to people who work with homeless youth. And Tyler, you're not the only one they've targeted." Tyler's insides felt cold. He'd known that somewhere deep down, but hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that hurt. "How many?" Margaret's face tightened. "A volunteer I spoke with, Sarah, lost her nephew 3 months ago. 14 years old. Got into a white van after a cleanup crew told him he'd get a bed and a meal. Never came back. No intake record. No placement record. Like he was erased." Tyler felt hollow. "Marcus," Margaret blinked. "What?" "My friend," Tyler said quietly. "Marcus, 4 weeks ago, same thing. He was sleeping near the community center. They did a cleanup. Next day he was gone. His stuff was still there, but he wasn't." His voice cracked slightly. "I thought maybe he just moved on. But he wouldn't leave his backpack. It had his mom's picture in it." Margaret's hand moved like she wanted to touch his, then stopped, respecting his space. "I'm so sorry." Duke appeared in the doorway. He'd heard enough. "Tyler, office, now." Tyler's pulse hammered, but he stood and followed. Inside, Duke shut the door and pulled out a map of Portland. He spread it on the desk. "Show me," Duke said, "where you saw Marcus last, where they took him." "Everything." Tyler's hand shook as he pointed. "Here, old community center. There were vans, 2 of them, and guys with clipboards, but they had radios. Not city radios, different." Duke marked it. "In the warehouse you mentioned, the rail yard." Tyler traced the route with his finger, under the freeway through the industrial district to the fenced lot with blue tarps. "There's a side gate, opens inward. I followed the van for about 10 minutes before I lost it, but that's where it went." Duke stared at the map, then he pulled out his phone and took a picture of Tyler's route. "I'm sending people to watch that place. Not to start trouble, just to see who comes and goes." Tyler's voice came out rough. "Why are you doing this?" Duke looked up. "Because someone should have done it for my brother." Tyler blinked. Duke had never mentioned a brother. Duke saw the question in his face and decided after a long moment to answer it. "Connor," Duke said. 17, 20 years ago. His jaw worked. "Got mixed up with the wrong people. I was in the Marines stationed overseas. Told myself he'd be fine, he was smart, he'd figure it out. He didn't. Found him in an alley 3 months later. Someone decided he was a problem, and problems disappear." Tyler couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry." Duke's eyes were hard. "I couldn't save him. But maybe I can make sure your friend didn't disappear for nothing." The next 2 days were a blur of activity that Tyler only partially understood. Duke had Rachel, the attorney, filing formal requests with the city. Margaret was visiting more shelters and churches, building a network of people who'd seen the vans, who'd lost kids, who knew something was wrong, but had been too scared or too ignored to speak up. And Duke's crew quietly, carefully started watching. Not just the rail yard, also Grant and Ninth, the community center, the routes between. They used plain cars, no bikes, no patches, just phones and patience. On the 6th day, Jinx called Duke into the security room. Tyler was nearby sweeping and Duke waved him over. On the monitor, grainy footage from a camera near the rail yard showed a black SUV pulling up to the gate. A man stepped out. Neat coat, clean, professional. That's him, Tyler breathed. That's the guy. Duke's eyes narrowed. You're sure he doesn't do the grabbing, Tyler said. But he's always there, watching, like he's in charge. Jinx froze the frame, zoomed in on the man's face, clear enough for identification. Duke pulled out his phone and sent the image to Rachel with a single message. Who is this? The response came an hour later. Rachel called. Duke put it on speaker. His name is Victor Nash, Rachel said, voice tight. He's a consultant. His company has contracts with the city for community response coordination. Officially, he's supposed to help connect homeless individuals with services. And unofficially, Duke asked, his company shares an address with a youth services nonprofit that doesn't have proper intake records. And his brother Daniel Nash runs the private security company that got the cleanup contracts downtown. Tyler felt sick. It's a system. They're cleaning the streets by making people disappear. That's what it looks like, Rachel said. But proving it is different. We need evidence. We need witnesses willing to testify. We need... The shop phone rang, sharp, sudden. Duke stared at it like it was a snake. It rang again. He picked it up. Iron River. A voice came through, smooth, polite. Mr. Harrison, we should talk. Duke's face went stone. Who is this? Someone who appreciates order, the voice said. I understand you have been asking questions. About vans, about community programs, about a certain boy. Tyler's blood went cold. He recognized that voice, not from a specific memory, but from the feeling it created, like hearing a song you hate because it played during every bad moment. Duke's hand tightened on the receiver. If you're calling about Tyler, you can talk to my attorney. A soft chuckle. Attorney. Adorable. No one wants trouble, Mr. Harrison. Not for you, not for your mother. The way he said mother made Duke's jaw clench. Especially not for your mother, Evelyn Harrison. Lovely woman. Tyler saw Duke's face change. Saw the moment threat became personal. Don't, Duke said quietly. Don't say her name. Grant and Ninth is quite close to her neighborhood, isn't it? The voice continued. Maple Street, the house with the blue shutters. She has such lovely routines. Morning walk at 7. Pharmacy on Tuesdays. Church on Sundays. Duke's voice went deadly calm. You go near her and what? The voice interrupted. You'll do what? Create a scene, prove you're the dangerous ones. The city already thinks your club is a problem, Mr. Harrison. One complaint about harassment or intimidation, and you'll have more inspections than you can handle. Permits, zoning, fire code, so many ways for a business to fail. Tyler stepped closer without meaning to. Duke held up a hand, stopping him. What do you want? Duke asked. Simple, the voice said. The boy stops telling stories, stops pointing fingers, stops making my job difficult. You hand him over to proper services. He goes into the system where he belongs. Everyone moves on. Tyler's chest heaved. The system. The one that had lost Lily. The one that had put Marcus in a van. The one that erased kids like they were mistakes to be corrected. No, Duke said flatly, a pause. Then you're choosing a very difficult path, Mr. Harrison. Get off my line, Duke said and hung up. Silence filled the office. Tyler's hands were shaking. He knows where she lives. He knows her routine. He's going to... I know, Duke cut in. He was already dialing. Reaper, get 2 guys to my mother's house. Plain clothes, no bikes. I want eyes on her street 24/7. Then he called Margaret. Mom, listen to me. I need you to stay inside. Lock every door. Don't answer for anyone except me or Rachel. Someone made a threat. Tyler heard Margaret's voice through the phone, calm but tense. What kind of threat? The kind that uses your address, Duke said. I'm handling it, but I need you safe. After Duke hung up, he turned to Tyler. This just escalated. Tyler felt tears of rage burning behind his eyes. I should leave. Just go. Then they'll leave you alone. Leave her alone. Duke stepped closer. You leave and you're dead. They want you silent. Running just makes you easier to catch. Then what do we do? Tyler's voice cracked. Duke stared at the phone, then at Tyler, Then at the map still spread on his desk. We make noise. We make so much noise, they can't make you disappear quietly. He picked up his phone and scrolled through contacts. Stopped on one named Preacher. Tyler watched as Duke typed a message. Need to talk about protecting a kid from a dirty system. Might get complicated. The response came in 30 seconds. When Sharon, Duke typed back tonight. That night, the shop filled with people Tyler had never seen before. Not the regular crew. These were others. Men in leather vests with patches that marked them as Iron River MC. They came in quietly, not making a scene, just appearing one by one until the shop held maybe 20 people. Preacher stood in the center. Tall gray beard, calm eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. Duke briefed them. Short, direct. A kid saved his mother. System is hunting the kid. Vans taking homeless youth. Evidence of corruption. Threats made against his mother. When Duke finished, Preacher looked at Tyler. Really looked. Not judging, assessing. How old are you, son? Preacher asked. 15, Mom. Tyler said, voice steadier than he felt. Preacher nodded slowly. Then he turned to Duke. You're asking us to stand between a kid and city contracts. That's not a small ask. I know, Duke said. Could get messy, another man said. Could draw attention we don't need. Also know that, Duke replied. Preacher crossed his arms. Why this kid? You don't know him. He's not club, not family. Why risk what we've built? Duke didn't hesitate. Because Connor didn't have anyone. Because if we only protect our own, we're no better than the people hunting him. Silence. Then Reaper spoke up. Kid caught a twisted brake line today. Saved me from a crash. He's got eyes. Stone added, he doesn't complain, doesn't steal, just works. Jinx, rarely speaking, said quietly, he's scared, but he stays. That takes guts. Preacher looked back at Tyler. You got anyone family? Tyler swallowed. His sister, Lily, 10 years old, foster system, I don't know where. And these people, Preacher gestured vaguely toward the city, toward the vans, toward Victor Nash. They know about her. I don't know, Tyler admitted. Maybe. Preacher's jaw tightened. He looked at Duke, then at the men around the room, then back at Tyler. All right, Preacher said, we stand. Relief hit Tyler so hard his knees felt weak. Duke's hand landed on his shoulder. Steady, grounding. But we do this smart, Preacher continued. No violence unless they bring it. No intimidation. We're witnesses. We're cameras. We're the wall they have to go through to get to him. Clear, everyone nodded. Duke said clear. Over the next 2 days, the protection became real. Tyler slept in the shop office on a cot Duke set up, the door locked from the inside. Windows had bars that Tyler had once thought were to keep people out. Now he realized they also kept people safe. During the day, club members rotated through in plain clothes, watching streets, filming intersections, documenting every white van that passed. Margaret stayed home but had 2 men parked discreetly on her street at all times. Rachel filed emergency motions for records and protection orders, and then on the 8th day, everything broke open. Tyler was organizing tools when Jinx called everyone to the security room. On the monitor footage from the rail yard, a white van pulling up to the gate, the side door opening, and 2 figures being led out. Young, stumbling, scared. That's happening right now, Jinx said. Live feed. Tyler's insides twisted. Duke grabbed his phone. Reaper Stone, get to the rail yard. No confrontation. Film everything. Plates, faces, routes. Go. Tyler watched them leave. Watched the footage. Felt helpless and furious at the same time. Then Duke's shop phone rang again. Everyone froze. Duke picked it up. Yeah. Mr. Harrison, Victor Nash's voice, still being difficult. Duke's eyes stayed on the screen showing the rail yard. You're actively loading kids into vans right now. We're filming it. A pause, then Nash's voice lost its polish. You're making a mistake. No, Duke said. You did when you threatened my mother. 1 hour, Nash said, voice cold. The boy comes out, alone, or your mother's evening becomes very complicated. The line clicked dead. Duke stared at the phone. Tyler felt his world tilting. He's going to her house. I know, Duke said. He was already calling. Preacher, we need the line. Tyler's eyes went wide. What? Duke ignored him, listening to Preacher's response. Then yeah, all of it. Make it visible. He hung up and turned to Tyler. They want you to panic, want you to run, want you to sacrifice yourself to save her. We're not doing that. Then what are we doing? Tyler asked. Duke's eyes were hard as stone. We're showing them what happens when they hunt someone under our protection. 30 minutes later, the sound started. Low at first, distant, then building, growing. The rumble of engines. Not one, not 10, hundreds. The air itself seemed to vibrate with it. Tyler stepped outside and stopped breathing. Motorcycles were rolling down the street. Dozens of them, forming up in organized lines, parking with military precision, riders dismounting, standing beside their bikes, phones out, watching, waiting. 600 Harleys, that's what Duke had said once. Tyler hadn't believed it. Now he did, because they were all here. Not revving, not shouting, just present. An undeniable wall of chrome and leather and witnesses that said, you can't make this disappear quietly anymore. Preacher walked up to Duke. We're set. No one starts anything, but no one gets past us either. Duke nodded, then his phone buzzed. A message. Tyler saw Duke's face change. Duke turned to show him the screen. Security feed from Margaret's house. Victor Nash walking up her driveway, stepping onto her porch, knocking on her door. Tyler's hands curled into fists. He's there, too. I know, Duke said. And so are we. Duke made it a call. Ortiz, it's happening. Nash is at my mother's house right now, trespassing, threatening. We have video. If you want this clean, you move now. Tyler heard a voice respond crisp and professional. Duke hung up. Who's Ortiz? Tyler asked. A cop who actually cares, Duke said. Rachel's contact. One of the few clean ones left. On the security feed, they watched Nash lift something. A photograph. He held it up to Margaret's peephole. Even through the grainy video, Tyler could see what it was. A picture of a little girl with dark hair and a bright smile. Lily. Tyler's world stopped. He found her. Duke's hand gripped Tyler's shoulder hard. He's showing you he can reach her. That's all. He doesn't have her. He's trying to break you. But Tyler was already breaking. His breath came in gasps, his vision blurred. I have to stop this. I have to. Look at me, Duke commanded. Tyler did. You walk out there, you both lose. He's counting on you to panic. We stay smart. On the feed, red and blue lights appeared. Police cruiser. Then another. Nash's head turned. He stepped off the porch quickly but calmly, like he'd just been visiting a friend. But Detective Ortiz was already out of his car, blocking Nash's path. Tyler watched as words were exchanged. Nash's polished confidence cracking. Ortiz pointing. Another officer moving in. And then cuffs. Actual cuffs going on Victor Nash's wrists. Tyler's legs gave out. He sat hard on a workbench. Duke crouched beside him. Breathe, just breathe. He knows about Lily, Tyler gasped. He knows where she is. Then we find her first, Duke said. Rachel's already working on it. We'll get her location. We'll make sure she's protected. But right now you're safe. Margaret's safe. Nash is in custody. Tyler wanted to believe it, but he'd learned the hard way that safe was temporary, that the system had long arms and short memories for kids like him. Preacher appeared in the doorway. Nash is in the car. Ortiz is calling it in as trespassing and harassment. It's a start. Duke stood. It's more than a start. It's a crack. And we're going to drive it wide open. That night, Tyler didn't sleep. He lay on the cot in the office staring at the ceiling, thinking about Lily, about Marcus, about all the kids who'd gotten into vans and never come out, about how close he'd been to being one of them. Around midnight, Duke came in, sat down on the chair across from the cot. Can't sleep either, Duke said. Tyler sat up. How do we find her, Lily? Rachel's filing a request tomorrow, Duke said. Emergency family reunification petition. If we can prove you're her brother and she's in the system, we can start the process. Process takes time, Tyler said bitterly. Nash knows where she is right now. Nash is in jail, Duke replied. And even if he makes bail, he's being watched. Rachel made sure there's a protective order pending. He can't go near you, my mother, or any minors connected to this case. Tyler pulled his knees up. What about his brother Daniel, the one who runs the security company? Duke's face hardened. Working on that too. Reaper and Stone got footage from the rail yard. We identified the van, ran the plates, stolen of course, but we got faces. Rachel's turning everything over to federal investigators. This isn't just local corruption anymore. Tyler absorbed that. Federal. That sounded big. Maybe too big for kids like him to matter in. What if they let him go? Tyler asked quietly. What if none of this sticks? Duke leaned forward. Then we keep fighting. But Tyler, listen to me. You're not alone anymore. You understand, whatever happens, you don't face it alone. Tyler's voice felt raw. He nodded because speaking would break something he was barely holding together. Duke stood. Try to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. But sleep didn't come. Tyler lay there, phone clutched in his hand. Duke's mother's number memorized, Lily's face burned into his mind. Somewhere out there, his sister was sleeping, not knowing her brother was fighting to reach her. Not knowing that 600 motorcycles had become her shield too. And Victor Nash, sitting in a cell, was making calls of his own. The morning after Nash's arrest, the city woke up different. Not visibly. The streets still moved with the same indifferent rhythm. But something had shifted in the invisible architecture of power. A consultant was in custody. Questions were being asked. And 600 witnesses with cameras had made sure the story couldn't be buried quietly. Tyler was sweeping the shop floor when Rachel arrived. She looked exhausted, carrying a briefcase that seemed too heavy for her frame. Duke met her in the office. Tyler tried not to listen, but the door was open and Rachel's voice carried. Nash made bail 2 hours ago, Rachel said. Tyler's broom clattered to the floor. Duke's face went stone. How? Duke asked. Judge set it at $50,000. He posted it immediately. Cash. Rachel's voice was tight with frustration. But there's a protective order in place. He can't contact you, Margaret or Tyler. Can't go within 500 feet of any of you. Paper doesn't stop people like him, Duke said. No, Rachel agreed, but it gives us legal recourse if he violates it. And Duke, there's more. The federal investigators want to meet with Tyler. They're building a case, RICO statutes, civil rights violations. If they can prove Nash and his brother were systematically targeting vulnerable minors, this goes way beyond local corruption. Tyler picked up his broom with shaking hands. Federal investigators. That meant real law enforcement. But it also meant telling his story to strangers, becoming visible in ways that made him a target. Duke appeared in the doorway. Tyler, Rachel needs to talk to you. Tyler's stomach dropped. He followed them into the office. Rachel gestured for him to sit. She had kind eyes, tired but genuine. Tyler, I know this is overwhelming, she said, but the investigators need your testimony. What you saw, when you saw it, names if you know them, places, everything. Tyler's hands clenched. I already did a video. That was for the protective order, Rachel explained. This is different. This is building a federal case. It means sitting down with investigators, answering hard questions, maybe eventually testifying in court. Court, Tyler repeated. The word felt like a trap. Only if it goes to trial, Rachel said. Many cases settle before that. But I won't lie to you, this could take months. And during that time, you'll need to stay safe, stay visible, stay protected. What about Lily? Tyler's voice cracked on her name. Nash had her picture. He knows where she is. Rachel's expression softened. I filed an emergency petition this morning. We're arguing that you're her biological sibling and she's at risk due to Nash's threats. The judge is reviewing it. But Tyler, the system moves slowly, even in emergencies. How slow? Tyler demanded. Days, maybe a week for the initial hearing, Rachel said. If the judge agrees she's at risk, they'll move her to a secure placement while we work on reunification. Tyler stood up so fast the chair scraped. A week, he could get to her in a week. Duke was there, hand on Tyler's shoulder. Sit down. No, Tyler's voice rose. You don't get it. I've been looking for her for 2 years. 2 years. And now I know she's close enough that Nash could find her, and you want me to wait for a hearing. I want you to stay alive, Duke said firmly. If you run to find her, Nash wins. You both end up in a van. Is that what you want? Tyler's eyes burned. I want my sister. I know, Duke said, voice softer. And we're going to get her. The right way. The way that keeps both of you safe. Tyler slumped back into the chair, defeated. Rachel reached across the desk. Tyler, I have investigators checking every foster placement database in Oregon. We'll find her exact location. And when we do, we'll make sure she has protection too. Tyler nodded numbly. He didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Hope felt like touching a hot stove. Better to expect nothing and be surprised than expect something and watch it burn. Rachel left an hour later with more notes, more files, more promises Tyler couldn't afford to trust. Duke watched her go, then turned to Tyler. You hungry? Tyler shrugged. He was always hungry. Hunger was baseline, but food felt impossible right now. Come on, Duke said. Reaper's making something in the back. In the small kitchen area behind the shop, Reaper stood over a hot plate cooking eggs and bacon in a dented pan. The smell made Tyler feel nauseous and hungry at the same time. Reaper glanced up. Kid looks rough, Reaper observed. He's had a morning, Duke replied. Reaper scooped eggs onto a paper plate and handed it to Tyler. Eat, you're no good to anyone if you pass out. Tyler took the plate and sat on a milk crate. He ate mechanically, not tasting it, just filling the void. Stone appeared with coffee, set it beside Tyler, without a word, then disappeared again. This was how they showed care, Tyler realized. Not through words, through small acts, food, coffee, presence. Jinx came in from the security room. Duke, you need to see this. They followed him back to the monitors. Jinx pulled up footage from one of the cameras watching Grant and Ninth. Time-stamped from an hour ago, a white van, same model as before, circling the block, slowly, deliberately, like it was looking for something. They're still hunting, Tyler whispered. Not for long, Duke said. He pulled out his phone and sent the footage to Rachel and Detective Ortiz. That's evidence of ongoing operations. Even with Nash in custody, his network is still active. Tyler watched the van circle again. Disappear. Come back. A predator's pattern. There are more kids out there, right now, like Marcus was. Duke's jaw tightened. I know. We can't just wait for courts and hearings, Tyler said, voice rising. They're taking kids right now. What do you want me to do? Duke asked. Storm the warehouse. That's what they want. One wrong move and we're the criminals. We lose all the ground Rachel's building. Tyler stood. Then what? We just watch them hunt. We document, Duke said. We build an airtight case. We let more kids disappear while we file paperwork, Tyler shouted. Marcus is in there, maybe, if he's still alive. And we're sitting here doing nothing. The shop went quiet. Everyone had heard. Duke's face was unreadable. Then he spoke, voice low and controlled. You think I don't know that? You think I don't see it? But if we go in hot, we blow everything. Every lawyer, every investigator, every protective order becomes useless. They'll spin it as biker gang violence, and every kid in that warehouse becomes collateral damage. Tyler's chest heaved. So we sacrifice them to save the case. We save the case to save all of them, Duke corrected. Not just the ones in there now, but the ones they'll take next month, next year. We're trying to kill the system, Tyler, not just one snake. Tyler wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but he also knew Duke was right, knew that rage without strategy was just another way to lose. He sat back down, head in his hands. Preacher's voice came from the doorway. Maybe there's a middle path. Duke turned. I'm listening. We can't raid, Preacher said, but we can make sure everyone knows we're watching. We put bodies on that block, not threatening, just present. Cameras everywhere. Let them know every move they make is being recorded. Make it too expensive to operate. Duke considered. That's still walking a line. But it's a legal line, Preacher replied. We're not blocking anything, not threatening anyone, just citizens exercising their right to occupy public space and document what they see. With 600 motorcycles as backup if they push, Reaper added. Duke looked at Tyler. What do you think? Tyler lifted his head. I think if we can make them stop even for a day, That's one more day Marcus stays alive. Duke nodded slowly. All right, but we do this smart. Rotations, small groups, always filming. The second anyone makes contact, we disengage and call Ortiz. Clear. Clear, Preacher said. Within 2 hours it was done. 4 riders in plain clothes parked in a coffee shop parking lot across from the rail yard. Phones out, cameras running, not hiding, making sure they were seen, seeing. The message was clear: you're not invisible anymore. Tyler watched the feed from Jinx's monitors, saw the warehouse gate, saw the blue tarps, saw after 30 minutes a security guard come out and stare at the parked cars. The guard made a call, waited, then went back inside. They're nervous, Jinx observed. Good, Duke said. But Tyler felt something else, a prickling at the back of his neck. The feeling of being watched. He turned and scanned the shop. Everyone was accounted for. Everyone was focused on the screens or their work. But the feeling didn't fade. Duke, Tyler said quietly, something's wrong. Duke's head snapped toward him. What? I don't know, Tyler admitted. Just a feeling. Duke had learned to trust instincts, his own and others. Jinx, pull up all exterior cameras, now. Jinx's fingers flew. 4 feeds appeared. Front gate, side alley, back entrance, street view. Everything looked normal. Cars passing, pedestrians walking, the usual urban flow. Then Tyler saw it. There, that car. A dark sedan parked across the street. 2 people inside. Not moving, just sitting. Windows tinted, but not completely opaque. Tyler could just make out shapes. How long has it been there? Duke asked. Jinx scrolled back through footage. 20 minutes before we sent the riders to the rail yard. Duke's face went hard. They're watching us. Watch them. Tyler felt his insides twist. They know where I am. They've always known where you are, Duke said. That's not news. What matters is they can't get to you here. But Tyler wasn't so sure. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. Unknown number. His finger hovered over the decline button. Don't answer it, Duke said. Tyler didn't, but 3 seconds later, the shop phone rang. Duke stared at it, let it ring twice, 3 times, then picked up. Yeah. Tyler watched Duke's face change, saw anger give way to something colder. Duke put the phone on speaker. Hope you're listening, Tyler, a voice was saying, Nash's voice, because this is important. Tyler's breath caught. Duke's hand clenched the receiver. You violated the protective order, Duke said. This call is being recorded. Good, Nash replied. Then there will be a record of my generous offer. Tyler walks away from all of this, disappears, goes wherever he wants. In exchange, I forget about Lily. I forget about everyone. Clean slate. Tyler felt cold all over. You're lying. Am I? Nash's voice was smooth. Think about it, Tyler. You keep pushing, more people get hurt. Your sister, Duke's mother. How many people are you willing to sacrifice to tell your little story? The story that puts you in prison, Duke interjected. Nash laughed. You think this ends with me? I'm a contractor. I get paid to solve problems. The problems don't go away if I do. Someone else will take the contract. Someone else will clean the streets. The system doesn't change, Mr. Harrison. It just finds new hands. Tyler felt despair creeping in, because part of him believed it. The system had been failing kids long before Nash, would keep failing them after. But here's what does change, Nash continued. How many people suffer along the way? Tyler, you can end this today. Walk away. I'll even help you find your sister. Put you 2 together. Give you a fresh start. All you have to do is stop talking. And if I don't, Tyler heard himself ask, a pause, then I stop being polite. The line went dead. Tyler stared at the phone. Duke slowly hung up. The shop was silent. He's bluffing, Reaper said. Has to be. Maybe, Duke replied. Or maybe he's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Tyler felt his phone buzz again. A text message from an unknown number. He opened it with shaking hands. It was a photo, recent, a school playground, and in the background, partially visible, a girl with dark hair, 10 years old, playing on swings. The message below read Lily Harrison Brooks, Jefferson Elementary, Foster placement confirmed. Easy to reach. Your choice. Tyler felt like the floor had disappeared. Duke grabbed the phone, saw the message, and his face went white. Jinx, Duke barked. Find Jefferson Elementary now. Get Ortiz on the line. Tell him we have an active threat against a minor. But Tyler was already moving, grabbing his jacket, heading for the door. Tyler, stop! Duke's voice was a command. Tyler spun. He knows where she is. He sent me proof. I'm not waiting for another hearing while he what? Duke interrupted, stepping into Tyler's path. While he uses your panic to draw you out. This is the trap, Tyler. He wants you alone. Wants you running. Because then he has you both. I can't just do nothing. Tyler's voice broke. You won't, Duke said. Jinx status. Jefferson Elementary is 12 miles east, Jinx called out. School's in session. Ortiz is en route with a unit. ETA 15 minutes. Too long, Tyler gasped. Duke gripped Tyler's shoulders. Listen to me. Ortiz will get there. He'll make sure she's safe. But you going there alone helps no one. You understand no one. Tyler wanted to fight, wanted to run, wanted to do something that felt like saving her instead of trusting strangers to do what he couldn't. But Duke's eyes held him there, and somewhere beneath the panic, Tyler knew running was exactly what Nash wanted. What if Ortiz is too late? Tyler whispered. Then we deal with it, Duke said. Together. But you don't face it alone. Not anymore. Tyler nodded, shaking. Duke pulled him into a brief, tight hug. The kind of hug that said, I've got you. The kind Tyler couldn't remember ever receiving. Then Duke released him and turned to Preacher. Run 2 of ours to Jefferson. Plain clothes. Park where they can see the entrance. Anyone approaches that school who doesn't belong, they intervene. Quietly if possible. Loudly if necessary. Preacher nodded and made calls. Tyler stood there, useless, terrified, watching everyone move while he could only wait. Jinx pulled up a map, showed the school, the routes, the timeline. Minutes ticked by like hours. Finally, Ortiz's voice came through Duke's phone. We're at the school. Building is secure. Where's the girl? 4th grade classroom, Jinx read from the database Rachel had accessed. Teacher is Mrs. Patterson, room 14. Tyler heard voices through the phone. Movement. Then Ortiz again. I have eyes on her. She's in class. Safe. We're posting a unit at the school for the rest of the day. Tyler's legs gave out. He sat hard on the floor. Safe. She was safe. For now. Duke knelt beside him. We're getting her out of there, Duke said. Rachel's filing an emergency motion right now. By tonight, Lily will be in protective custody. With you. I promise. Tyler looked up. You can't promise that. Watch me, Duke replied. And for the first time since this started, Tyler let himself believe. Not because the system suddenly worked, but because Duke Harrison kept his promises. And 600 people had his back. Nash had made a mistake. He'd shown his hand, proven he was willing to target children. That changed everything. And the city was about to learn what happened when you threatened a kid under Iron River's protection. The war had just begun, but now Tyler wasn't fighting alone. The emergency hearing happened faster than anyone expected. By 4 p.m., Tyler was sitting in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and anxiety. Duke on one side, Rachel on the other. Margaret sat in the gallery, hands folded, face composed, but eyes fierce. The judge was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the kind of face that had seen every trick in the book twice. She read through Rachel's motion with quick, efficient eyes. Across the aisle, a harried social services attorney looked like she'd been pulled from 3 other cases to be here. Ms. Stern, the judge said, you're alleging that a minor in foster care, one Lily Harrison Brooks, is at imminent risk due to threats made by Victor Nash, who is currently out on bail for trespassing and harassment charges. Yes, Your Honor. Rachel stood. Mr. Nash sent photographic evidence to Tyler Brooks, Lily's biological brother, showing he knows her location and can access her. Given Mr. Nash is under investigation for multiple civil rights violations involving minors, we believe Lily is in danger. The social services attorney stood. Your Honor, there's no evidence Mr. Nash has actually approached the child. The foster placement has been stable for 8 months, removing her based on hypothetical threats. He sent a photo of her at school, Rachel cut in. with text stating she's easy to reach. That's not hypothetical. That's a direct threat. The judge held up a hand. I've read the filings. Where is Tyler Brooks? Tyler stood, legs shaking. Here, Your Honor. The judge looked at him over her glasses. How old are you? 15. And you've been living where? Tyler glanced at Duke. Rachel nodded. With Duke Harrison, Your Honor, under temporary emergency guardianship while we work through the placement process. And Mr. Harrison is, the judge consulted her notes, president of a motorcycle club. Tyler felt the room shift. Here it was, the part where Tyler's safety mattered less than appearances. But Duke stood calm and steady. Iron River MC, to Your Honor. We're a registered nonprofit. We do veteran outreach toy drives and apparently protect kids when the system can't. The judge's eyebrow raised. That sounds like an accusation, Mr. Harrison. It's an observation, Your Honor, Duke replied. Tyler saved my mother's life. The people hunting him know where his sister is. We're asking for protection the right way, through this court, not despite it. Silence. The judge stared at Duke for a long moment, then at Tyler, then at the files in front of her. Here's what I see, the judge said finally. A 15-year-old who's been failed by multiple systems. A younger sister in foster care who may or may not be at risk. And a complicated situation involving criminal investigations I'm not privy to. She paused. Ms. Stern, what exactly are you requesting? Emergency protective custody for Lily, Rachel said. Place her with Tyler under Mr. Harrison's guardianship while we expedite family reunification hearings. The social services attorney objected. Your Honor, we haven't even confirmed sibling relationship. We haven't done home studies. This is expedited, the judge finished. Yes, I heard. Ms. Stern, you have DNA proof of relationship. Rachel hesitated. Not yet, Your Honor, but... Then get it, the judge said. I'm ordering expedited DNA testing for Tyler and Lily Brooks. Results in 48 hours. If they confirm sibling relationship and if Detective Ortiz's assessment supports the threat level Ms. Stern described, I'll consider emergency placement. She looked at Tyler. Young man, this is temporary. You understand nothing is final until we've done this properly. I understand, Tyler managed. I just want her safe. The judge's expression softened slightly. So do I. Court adjourned. I want updates in 48 hours. The gavel cracked. It was done, not finished, but started. Tyler walked out of the courtroom on shaking legs, Margaret's hand steadying his elbow. You did well, she said quietly. Tyler didn't feel like he'd done anything. But when they reached the courthouse steps, Detective Ortiz was waiting. Beside him stood a woman in business casual, hands clasped in front of her. And next to her, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit, was Lily. Tyler stopped breathing. 2 years. 2 years of searching, surviving, hoping, and there she was. Taller than he remembered. Hair longer. But the same eyes, the same way she tilted her head when she was uncertain. Tyler. Her voice was small, like she wasn't sure it was really him. Tyler's legs moved without permission. He closed the distance and dropped to his knees so they were eye level. Lily, it's me. It's really me. She stared at him. Then the rabbit dropped and she crashed into him, arms around his neck, crying into his shoulder. Tyler wrapped around her and felt 2 years of survival crack open into something that hurt worse than anything relief. You found me, she sobbed. You found me, you found me, you found me. I promised, Tyler whispered, voice breaking. I promised I'd find you. They stayed like that while the courthouse steps moved around them. Duke stood back, giving them space. Margaret's eyes were wet. Even Rachel looked away, blinking hard. Finally, Ortiz cleared his throat gently. Tyler, the caseworker needs to talk to you. Tyler pulled back slightly, but kept one hand on Lily's shoulder. The caseworker, mid-40s, tired but kind eyes, knelt down too. I'm Mrs. Patterson, she said. Lily's been with a good family. They've taken care of her, but she's been asking about you for months, drawing pictures of you, writing letters she had no address to send. She looked at Tyler. The judge said 48 hours. That means Lily goes back to her foster home tonight while we sort this out. Lily's grip tightened on Tyler's jacket. No, I just found him. I know, sweetheart, Mrs. Patterson has said, But it's just 2 days, and your brother isn't disappearing again. Right, Tyler? Tyler nodded even as his chest felt like it was caving in. Right. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be at the shop. You can call me. Duke has a phone. We can video chat. Whatever you need. Promise? Lily's voice was tiny. Promise, Tyler said. On Mom's picture. You still have it? Lily nodded, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a worn photograph, creased and faded. Their mother smiling before cancer took her. Lily had kept it through everything. See, Tyler said. We both kept our promises. 2 more days. That's nothing. Lily didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Mrs. Patterson stood, offering her hand. Lily took it reluctantly, looking back at Tyler every other step. Wait, Duke said. He pulled out a business card and handed it to Mrs. Patterson. My direct line. If anything happens, anything, you call immediately. Mrs. Patterson took the card. Mr. Harrison, I know who you are, and I know what people say about motorcycle clubs. But I also know what I see, a kid who's fighting for his sister. That means something. Duke nodded once. Then help us keep them together. I'll do what I can, she said. Then she and Lily walked to a county vehicle. Lily waved through the window as they drove away. Tyler waved back until the car disappeared. Then he turned to Duke. What if Nash tries something in those 48 hours? Then he's an idiot, Duke said, because Ortiz, Rachel, and about 600 witnesses are making sure he doesn't get within a mile of either of you. But that night, Tyler couldn't sleep. He lay on the cot in the office phone charged and beside his pillow, waiting for a call that would tell him everything had gone wrong. Around midnight, a message came through, not from Lily's caseworker, from an unknown number. Touching reunion. The judge gave you 48 hours. I'm giving you less. Tyler felt ice in his veins. He showed Duke, who immediately called Ortiz. Within minutes, patrol cars were stationed at both the Foster home and Jefferson Elementary. But Nash was playing a longer game. He knew the rules now. New direct threats were tracked. So he changed tactics. The next day, the social media campaign started. Someone anonymous accounts' fake profiles began posting photos of Duke, of the Iron River MC, with captions about dangerous gangs influencing family courts, about biker clubs grooming vulnerable kids, about how Tyler was being radicalized by criminal elements. The narrative spread fast. Local news picked it up. Motorcycle club seeks custody of foster children. One headline read. Another, judge questions placement with gang-affiliated guardian. Rachel was furious. It's a smear campaign, classic Nash playbook. He can't get to you physically, so he's poisoning the well legally. Tyler watched the news coverage and felt hope sliding away. The judge is going to see this. She's going to think Duke is dangerous. Then we show her the truth, Margaret said. She'd been quiet all morning, sitting at the shop's small table with her laptop. Now she turned it around. On screen was a document she'd been compiling. Every charity event Iron River had done. Every veteran they'd helped. Every toy drive, every fundraiser, every community service hour. Documented, verified, with photos. This is who we are, Margaret said firmly, not what scared people want us to be. Rachel took the laptop. This is good, really good. I can submit this to the court. Counter the narrative. Duke was less optimistic. Narrative doesn't matter if Nash gets to the judge first, or the caseworker, or anyone else who makes decisions. Then we make sure our story is louder, Preacher said from the doorway. Why? He held up his phone. Social media works both ways. I just posted Tyler's original video, the one where he talks about saving Margaret, about the vans, about kids disappearing. It's getting traction. Tyler felt sick. You made me more visible, that's worse. No, Preacher said. Invisible is what Nash wanted. You in a van where nobody looks. Visible means people care what happens to you. Means if you disappear, people notice. Within hours, the video had thousands of views. Comments poured in, some supportive, some skeptical. But enough people sharing it that journalists started asking questions. Real questions. About the vans, about Victor Nash's contracts, about how many kids had gone missing during community outreach. That evening, a local reporter showed up at the shop, young, determined, with a camera crew. Duke almost turned her away. Then Tyler said, "Let her in." The interview was brief. Tyler told his story. Not all of it, just the parts that mattered. Homeless after his father's abuse, separated from his sister, witnessed kids being taken, saved an old woman, got hunted for it. The reporter asked pointed questions about Nash, about the vans, about why city contracts went to a man now under federal investigation. When it aired on the 10 o'clock news, everything changed. The story wasn't about bikers and courts anymore. It was about missing kids, about corruption, about a system that had looked away until 600 motorcycles made it impossible to ignore. Nash called Duke's phone that night. Duke put it on speaker, Ortiz listening on another line recording every word. "You're making this personal," Nash said, voice still smooth but frayed at the edges. "It was always personal," Duke replied. "You threatened my mother, threatened a kid. Now you're threatening his sister. That's as personal as it gets." "I could make you all disappear," Nash said. "You understand that I have resources, connections, people who—" "Keep talking," Duke interrupted. "Give Detective Ortiz more to charge you with." Silence. Then Nash realized, "You're recording this." Every word Ortiz confirmed. "Mr. Nash, consider this your warning. Any further contact with Tyler Brooks, Lily Brooks, Margaret Harrison, or Duke Harrison will result in immediate arrest for violating the protective order. And that recording you just made, that's witness intimidation. Federal offense." The line went dead. Duke looked at Ortiz. "Will it stick?" "It'll add to the pile," Ortiz said. "And the pile's getting heavy. Federal investigators raided the rail yard warehouse this afternoon. Found 12 kids detained illegally. No proper paperwork, no consent forms. Just kids they'd swept up and were processing for work programs." Tyler's chest constricted. Marcus Ortiz nodded. "Marcus Reeves, 15, been there for 3 weeks. He's alive, Tyler. Traumatized but alive. He's asking for you." Tyler couldn't breathe. Relief and guilt crashed together. "Can I see him?" "Tomorrow," Ortiz said. "He's at the hospital getting checked out. But yes, you can see him." That night, Tyler finally slept. Not peacefully, but he slept knowing Marcus was alive, knowing Lily was 48 hours from being safe, knowing the system was finally slowly starting to work. The DNA results came back the next morning. Confirmed. Tyler Brooks and Lily Brooks. Full biological siblings. Rachel filed the paperwork immediately. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing that afternoon. This time when Tyler walked into the courtroom, journalists lined the gallery. The social media campaign had backfired on Nash. Now there were cameras, witnesses, public scrutiny, the kind of light that made corruption hard to hide. The judge entered. Everyone stood. When they sat, the judge looked directly at Tyler. "Mr. Brooks, DNA confirms you and Lily are siblings. Detective Ortiz's report confirms credible threats against both of you. Mrs. Patterson's assessment indicates Lily's emotional well-being is strongly tied to reunification with you." She paused. "However, Mr. Harrison's guardianship is unconventional. The court has concerns." Tyler felt his stomach drop. Here it was, the part where good intentions met bureaucratic reality. Rachel stood. "Your Honor, if I may address those concerns." The judge nodded. Rachel pulled out Margaret's document. "Iron River MC isn't just a motorcycle club. For 20 years, they've served this community. Veterans outreach, youth programs, charity fundraisers. Mr. Harrison himself is a decorated Marine veteran with no criminal record. His mother, Margaret Harrison, is a retired social worker who's already passed background checks. The home they're offering has been inspected and approved. These aren't criminals, Your Honor. They're a family who stepped up when no one else would." The social services attorney stood. "Your Honor, the optics alone—" "The optics," the judge interrupted, "are that a 15-year-old saved an elderly woman, then got hunted by corrupt officials, and the only people who protected him were a motorcycle club and his attorney. So let's talk about optics." She looked at the social services attorney. "Where was your department when Tyler was on the streets? Where were the resources, the safety nets, the follow-up?" The attorney stammered, "We have limited resources, Your Honor." "Everyone has limited resources," the judge said, "but some people still show up." She turned back to Tyler. "Young man, do you want to live with Mr. Harrison and his mother?" Yes, Your Honor, Tyler said without hesitation. And you understand this is temporary guardianship while we complete the full adoption process, that there will be home visits, check-ins, and requirements you'll need to meet. Yes, Your Honor. The judge looked at Duke. Mr. Harrison, you're taking on two traumatized children. This isn't a rescue mission. This is years of work, therapy, school, normal kid problems plus extraordinary trauma. Are you prepared for that? Duke stood. Your Honor, I lost my brother 20 years ago because no one stepped up. I'm not losing these kids, whatever it takes. The judge studied him for a long moment. Then, emergency guardianship granted. Lily Brooks is placed with Tyler Brooks under the temporary guardianship of Duke and Margaret Harrison. Full custody hearing in 60 days. This court is adjourned. The gavel cracked. Uh, Tyler felt his legs nearly give out. Margaret grabbed his arm, steadying him. You did it, she whispered. You got her back. An hour later, Mrs. Patterson brought Lily to the shop. This time when Lily ran to Tyler, she knew she could stay. They held each other in the middle of the garage while bikers worked around them, giving them space but also surrounding them with presents that said, you're protected now. That night, Margaret made dinner at her house. Real dinner. Pot roast and vegetables and bread that wasn't from a food bank. Lily sat beside Tyler at the table, not letting go of his hand. Duke sat across from them, Margaret at the head. A family, imperfect, complicated, but real. After dinner, Lily asked Tyler, what happens now? Tyler looked at Duke, at Margaret, at the house that smelled like home instead of survival. Now, he said, we figure it out together. The legal battle wasn't over. Nash was fighting federal charges, but his lawyers were good. The case would take months, maybe years. But with 12 kids found in that warehouse, with Marcus's testimony, with Tyler's video going viral, the pressure was too much for the system to ignore. Councilman Garrett resigned within a week. His brother Daniel Nash was arrested on RICO charges. The contracts were voided. The vans stopped circling. And slowly, painfully, the city started asking how it had let this happen. Tyler visited Marcus in the hospital 2 days after the raid. Marcus looked hollowed out but alive. When he saw Tyler, tears streamed down his face. I thought you were dead, Marcus said. They told me you were dead. I thought you were, Tyler replied. But we're not. We made it. Marcus grabbed Tyler's hand. Because of you. Because you didn't stop looking. Because of a lot of people, Tyler corrected. You'll meet them. And Marcus did. The crew at Iron River took him in too, helped him find his aunt, helped him start rebuilding. The garage became a haven for kids who'd slipped through cracks. Not officially, no programs or grants, just Duke leaving the door open and teaching anyone who wanted to learn about engines and second chances. 3 months later, Iron River MC held their annual charity ride. Fully permitted, families lined the streets. Tyler rode behind Duke on his bike, arms wrapped tight. Lily rode in a sidecar Margaret had insisted Duke install, wearing a helmet 3 sizes too big, grinning like she'd won the lottery. The route went past Grant and 9th, past the pharmacy where Margaret had bought a sandwich, past the courthouse where a judge had chosen to see people instead of stereotypes. 600 bikes rolled through Portland like thunder, but this time it wasn't about intimidation. It was about visibility, about showing that protection came in unexpected forms. When they reached the park where the ride ended, there was a celebration. Food trucks, music, kids playing. Marcus was there with his aunt. Mrs. Patterson came with other foster families. Even Rachel showed up with her husband and kids. Preacher approached Tyler with something in his hand. A vest, smaller than the others, custom made. On the back, it didn't say Iron River MC. It said, Iron River Family. Tyler stared at it. You're not a member, Preacher clarified. You're 15. You are not joining a club. But your family, that's different. That's permanent. Tyler took the vest with shaking hands. Put it on. It fit perfectly. Lily immediately demanded one too. Margaret laughed and promised to make her one. That evening, as the sun set over Portland, Tyler stood with Duke watching the crowd, watching people who'd been invisible become visible, watching a community that had learned to protect instead of ignore. What are you thinking? Duke asked. Tyler was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm thinking about the crosswalk, how one choice changed everything. You chose to be brave, Duke said. I chose to move, Tyler corrected. I didn't think, I just moved. And everything after that, it wasn't just me, it was her. He gestured to Margaret. And you. And 600 people who decided I mattered. Duke's hand landed on Tyler's shoulder. You always mattered, kid. We just made sure the world knew it. Tyler looked at Lily playing with other kids, looked at Marcus laughing with Reaper, looked at a family that hadn't existed 3 months ago but was now unbreakable. The system's still broken, Tyler said quietly. Yeah, Duke agreed, but we're fixing it. One kid at a time. Tyler nodded, because that was the truth. You couldn't save everyone, couldn't fix everything, but you could show up. You could stand between predators and prey. You could refuse to look away. A homeless boy had helped a grandmother cross the street. Her son ran a motorcycle club. 600 Harleys had changed his life, not because they were his salvation, but because they'd refused to let him be invisible. And in the end, that was the only thing that ever really saved anyone. Being seen, being valued, being protected not because you'd earned it, but because you deserved it simply by existing. Tyler pulled out his phone, took a picture of the sunset, of the crowd, of Lily laughing. He'd keep this, remember this, the day the world stopped walking past and started walking with. Then he put the phone away and went to join his sister. Because the future was uncertain and the past was painful, but the present was full of people who'd learned that family wasn't about blood. It was about showing up. And they kept showing up. Every day, every challenge, every moment Tyler or Lily needed someone to stand between them and the dark. That was the promise. Not that life would be easy, but that they'd never face it alone again. And for a kid who'd spent 6 months being invisible, that promise was everything.